Breaking news as we come on the air. New Hampshire State Police say there has been a shooting with multiple victims at the New Hampshire State Hospital in Concord.
And authorities just confirmed to us that the suspect is now dead. Let's get right to WBZ Chief Investigator Cheryl Fiandaco with what we know right now. Cheryl, what's the latest?
Well, Lisa, David, now this hospital is a psychiatric hospital. And as you said, police are telling us that the gunman is dead. Now, Sky Eye is over the scene where you can see it's still very active, with several law enforcement agencies on the hospital grounds. Now, this all unfolded just after 3 o'clock when calls came in for an active shooter at the state hospital. Now, that hospital is located in Concord, New Hampshire. State police tell us there are multiple victims. You can see there are several ambulances in the area, and earlier police evacuated the entire campus. Now, the hospital does have its own uniformed security force and requires visitors to go through metal detectors. New Hampshire Homeland Security and Emergency Management is setting up a media staging area where we have crews heading there right now. We also have reporters heading to the scene as well, and we're working to learn more on the number of victims and, of course, their injuries. We'll bring you the very latest on those breaking details as soon as we get them. Lisa, David.
All right, Cheryl, thank you so much.
And right now, we want to bring in WBZ security analyst Ed Davis, who joins us. Ed, thank you so much for being with us. We're looking at these live pictures at the scene now, or pictures from Sky Eye of the scene, we should say, and we can see this tremendous police presence. With the news now that the shooter is dead, what are these investigators working on?
Well, there's an enormous amount of work that needs to be done around an incident like this. They'll lock down the scene. They will make sure that all of the evidence is first isolated so no one can touch it. And then their responsibility is to bring in analysts who will document, first with photographs and video, and then finally with the collection of the evidence that's at the scene, so that the story can be told later with physical evidence to back it up. So that's really the responsibility. You know, when you get to a situation like this, it's about treating the patients first, saving lives as quickly as possible. It sounds like the shooter was taken out very quickly. So then things stabilize and it goes into full bore investigative mode.
And just filling in a few of the blanks here, we don't know how the suspect, in your words, Ed, was taken out. We do know that he is deceased. We also know that there were multiple victims, according to officials. That doesn't really give a clear picture of how many we're talking about when we say multiple. But Ed, psychiatric hospital like this, Cheryl Fiandaco was just saying that they have metal detectors and that they have their own armed security. Is this a place that would normally have quite a bit of security?
Frankly, yes, David. These are situations and places that we refer to as crime generators, places that police have to be aware of and staff properly. I was told that there is a police officer on duty there 24/7. That would not be unusual for a psychiatric facility, and additional personnel to fill the role of security for the people who are there. So if there was an officer there and a shooting incident happened or a man with a gun became apparent, the person on duty would be the first one to engage that individual. So but these areas are well known as potential problems and potential places of violence, not only to the police, but to the staff that work there.
Yeah, and we should point out, we have no idea what this gunman's motivation was late this afternoon. You know, Ed, we talked about the security that is in place there. You mentioned a police officer on duty. Cheryl mentioned the metal detectors. But at some point, when you've got somebody who is approaching a facility like this, who is armed, realistically, how much can you prevent this individual from getting in unless you have a gate some ways down before the person is even on the property?
Well, you know, you need to engage someone like that. You need to stop them as quickly as possible and get them stopped as far away from the facility or victims who may be potential victims who may be congregating in the area. So the officer is going to need to go to the threat and try to neutralize whatever threat there is. Obviously, you know, you ask them to put their weapons down, but if they raise those weapons up or are in a threatening manner with whatever weapon they have, the officer has to move more quickly than the person who who is posing the threat. And that's a very dangerous thing to do. The officer will likely look for cover and concealment to try to get behind something that they can safely shoot from. But a lot of times in these situations, there's no time for that. Most of the police officer involved shootings that happen in this country happen within 3 to 5 feet, and they're very quick incidents that don't allow people to take a lot of time except to react in the way that they've been trained to.
If you're just joining us, giving you an update on what you're seeing on your screen right now. This is video from Sky Eye of New Hampshire Hospital in Concord, also known as Concord State Hospital, where this afternoon a suspect is deceased. Multiple injuries, according to state police, after a shooting there. What is unclear is who the shooter is, only that they are now deceased. We also don't know how many people we're talking about, only that the word multiple has been used by state police there in New Hampshire. This happening outside of the hospital. What we've seen is not only this huge police presence, which you see at the bottom of your screen there, but also the police tape that we have seen sort of marking off the crime scene is outside of the hospital, which leads us to believe that whatever happened here happened outside of the hospital and not inside, as Ed Davis was just saying. He called it an area that can be known as a crime generator, a psychiatric hospital. But again, contained is the word that has been used by police in describing the situation there, meaning that it does not appear that there is any other threat to the public or to the people there.
Ed, if you're still with us, before you go, anybody who knows doctors, nurses, therapists, these are high-stress environments to begin with. But what might be offered to the employees at this particular facility with respect to their emotional well-being in the coming days?
Well, after a terrible incident like this, the protocol would be to offer psychiatric assistance, bring in counselors and psychiatrists and psychologists, and put together a process of debriefing and really kind of bringing people down from that edge of adrenaline that happens to you in a situation like this. So there'll be a lot of that work done tonight and over the coming days. But people who work in the medical profession deal with violent behavior all the time. And I used to work in a hospital before I went in the police department, and saw firsthand what the nurses and doctors go through. So they're very experienced, very capable of dealing with this kind of an incident. But when it gets to be a deadly encounter like this, it really is a terrible thing to go through. So they're going to need some help.
Ed Davis, your insight, your expertise, and your ability to put this in context, always really helpful for us. Thank you so much for being with us, Ed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. And we do want to pass along now, Governor Chris Sununu there in New Hampshire has issued the following statement, saying this afternoon there was an incident at New Hampshire Hospital which has been contained. While the scene remains active as the campus is cleared, the suspect is deceased. The state immediately mobilized first responders and law enforcement. They're on the scene and will provide as many details as possible as this situation unfolds.